We often hear that family is everything, that blood is thicker than water, that no matter what, family comes first. And while these sentiments hold a beautiful truth about connection, loyalty, and unconditional love, they can also become a smokescreen, a societal pressure that makes us tolerate behaviors we wouldn't accept from anyone else. The truth is, sometimes the people closest to us, bound by blood or lifelong ties, can be the sources of our deepest pain and a significant drain on our life force. Today, we're not talking about the usual annoyances or minor disagreements that are part of any close relationship. We're diving into specific, destructive patterns of behavior, patterns that, if tolerated, can erode your self-worth, sabotage your peace, and stunt your growth. This is about reclaiming your personal sovereignty and understanding that even with family, perhaps especially with family, healthy boundaries are not just an option, but a necessity for a life of integrity and well-being. So let's explore 5 behaviors you absolutely should not tolerate, even if it's family. The first, and perhaps one of the most insidious, is chronic disrespect and belittling. This isn't about an occasional insensitive remark made in the heat of the moment. This is a persistent pattern of put-downs, invalidation, mockery, or condescension. It's the family member who consistently dismisses your achievements, scoffs at your dreams, criticizes your choices in a way that's designed to make you feel small, incompetent, or foolish. They might disguise it as teasing or just being honest, but the underlying current is a clear lack of respect for who you are. Tolerating this chips away at your very core. It's like a constant low-grade emotional poison. You begin to doubt yourself, to shrink, to internalize their negative view. Your inner state, your personal energy field, becomes heavy, burdened by this projected negativity. Why would you allow someone to consistently devalue you? Your intrinsic worth is non-negotiable. Allowing this behavior is a tacit agreement with their assessment. It teaches them, and more importantly, it teaches you, that it's okay for you to be treated this way. The path to a higher state of being, to self-actualization, demands that you first value yourself enough to refuse to be a dumping ground for someone else's contempt or insecurity. Setting a boundary here isn't about being aggressive. It's about calmly and firmly asserting your right to be treated with basic human dignity. It might mean stating clearly, "I will not be spoken to like that," and if it continues, removing yourself from the interaction or even the relationship if necessary. This isn't an act of malice, it's an act of profound self-respect. The second behavior that requires a firm line is manipulation and emotional blackmail. This is a covert form of control, often wielded by those who feel powerless themselves but seek to exert influence through arousing guilt, obligation, or fear. It's the family member who uses guilt trips to get their way. "After all I've done for you, you can't do this one small thing for me?" It's the one who plays the perpetual victim, making you responsible for their happiness or their problems. It can even involve subtle or overt threats. If you don't do X, then Y will happen, and it will be your fault. Tolerating manipulation is like allowing someone to plant weeds in the garden of your mind. It distorts your perception of reality, makes you question your own judgment, and often leads you to act against your own best interests or values out of a misplaced sense of duty or fear of emotional reprisal. This is a direct assault on your autonomy. It is crucial to recognize these tactics for what they are: attempts to control you by exploiting your empathy or your fear. Resisting manipulation isn't about being uncaring. It's about maintaining your psychological integrity. It requires you to see the pattern, to understand that you are not responsible for managing another adult's emotions or life choices through self-sacrifice. You can offer compassion, but you cannot allow yourself to be emotionally puppeteered. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself, and even for the manipulator, though they won't see it that way initially, is to refuse to play the game, to state your position clearly, and to not be swayed by the emotional storm they might create. This is where you choose order over the chaos they attempt to generate. Third on our list is the deliberate undermining of your goals and success. This can be more subtle than direct disrespect, but it's equally corrosive. It's the family member who, perhaps out of their own unfulfilled ambitions or envy, consistently pours cold water on your aspirations. They might subtly sabotage your efforts, offer backhanded compliments that diminish your achievements, or constantly highlight the risks and downsides of any new venture you're excited about, rarely offering genuine support or encouragement. Their concern often feels more like a projection of their own limitations or a desire to keep you at their level. When you tolerate this, you allow an external force to dim your inner light and derail your journey towards your potential. Your environment, including your family environment, should ideally be a source of support or at least neutrality when it comes to your personal growth. Allowing someone to constantly chip away at your confidence or enthusiasm is like trying to build a magnificent structure while someone else is simultaneously removing the foundation stones. It's essential to protect your dreams and your drive. This doesn't mean you can't listen to constructive criticism, but there's a vast difference between that and a pattern of undermining. Surround yourself as much as possible with people who genuinely want to see you succeed, or at the very least, do not actively work against it. For those family members who engage in this, you may need to limit the information you share about your goals, or clearly state that while you appreciate their perspective, you are committed to your path. Your life's trajectory is your responsibility, not theirs to dictate through negativity. The fourth behavior that must not be tolerated is a persistent refusal to acknowledge or respect your boundaries. Boundaries are the invisible lines we draw around ourselves that define what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior from others. They are essential for psychological health, personal space, and the integrity of our relationships. This could be a family member who constantly pries into your private life despite requests for privacy, one who borrows money and never repays it, one who shows up unannounced repeatedly, or one who continues a specific behavior, like making certain jokes or comments, after you've clearly asked them to stop. Tolerating repeated boundary violations is a signal to yourself and others that your needs and limits don't matter. It leads to resentment, frustration, and a feeling of being invaded or disrespected. It's like leaving the doors and windows of your house wide open for anyone to come in and do as they please. Establishing and maintaining boundaries, especially with family where roles and expectations can be deeply entrenched, requires courage and consistency. It means saying no when you need to without excessive guilt or explanation. It means clearly communicating what is not okay and being prepared to enforce that boundary with consequences if necessary, which might include creating distance. This isn't about being punitive. It's about teaching people how you expect to be treated and protecting your own well-being. Healthy relationships, family or otherwise, are built on mutual respect, and respect cannot exist without boundaries. Finally, the fifth behavior is pervasive negativity and the constant projection of misery. This is the family member who seems to live under a perpetual dark cloud. They complain constantly, blame everyone else for their problems, see the worst in every situation, and often seem determined to drag you down into their state of unhappiness. They might resist any suggestion of solutions or personal responsibility, preferring instead to marinate in their victimhood and project their dissatisfaction onto you or the world at large. Tolerating this behavior means allowing your own energy, your own state of consciousness, to be consistently pulled down by their lower vibrational field. It's emotionally and mentally exhausting. While compassion for someone's suffering is important, there's a difference between offering support and becoming an emotional landfill for their unresolved negativity. You are not obligated to absorb their misery or to fix their life, especially if they show no inclination to take responsibility for it themselves. Protecting your own peace and optimism is paramount. This might involve limiting your exposure to them, changing the subject when a conversation spirals into negativity, or gently but firmly refusing to engage in endless complaint sessions. You have the power to choose your own internal state, and you don't have to let someone else's chronic negativity dictate yours. As they say, before you try to save the world, make sure your own room is in order. Your primary responsibility is to your own well-being and your own path. Confronting these behaviors, especially within a family context, is rarely easy. It can stir up feelings of guilt, fear of conflict, or a sense of betraying familial expectations. But remember, Choosing not to tolerate destructive behavior is not an act of aggression or a lack of love. It is an act of profound self-love and self-respect. It's about recognizing your own inherent value and your right to a peaceful, fulfilling existence. It's also, paradoxically, sometimes the most compassionate stance you can take for the other person in the long run. By refusing to enable or participate in destructive patterns, you are in a sense holding up a mirror, offering them an opportunity, even if they don't take it, to see the consequences of their actions and perhaps eventually to choose a different way of being. You cannot change others. You can only change yourself, your responses, and what you are willing to accept in your life. This is where your true power lies. It's about choosing a higher level of consciousness for yourself, one rooted in integrity, self-respect, and truth. It's about being centered in your own value, regardless of external validation or disapproval. Take responsibility for the quality of your life. Set your house in order, starting with the relationships that impact you most profoundly. It takes courage, it takes honesty, and sometimes it means making difficult choices. But the peace, clarity, and authentic connections that come from living with such integrity are worth more than any temporary comfort gained from tolerating the intolerable. Choose wisely. Choose yourself.